Well, good morning everybody. Today's video we have something just a little bit special. Today we're going to be talking about this little monster in the Moscow campaign known as the bt-7. You might be thinking to yourself, well, I looked at that tank. I didn't see anything much special about it, but let's talk about this thing just a little bit, alright? Let's just take a little look and see what it is exactly that makes this race car with a tank turret mounted on top so special, huh? Okay. Now I know you don't unlock this thing up until level 12 in the campaign, and boy, that can take a little bit to get to, especially when you're grinding through the T-26, which everybody knows is not very good. But BT-7 is a direct upgrade, you know, that's why you unlock it further down the tree. This little kitten was designed back in 1935 and served all the way up until the end of the war. It was considered the hero of the Kalkan Goal. I mean, they liked it so damn much they erected a statue in its honor, right? And there's a reason for it. There is a reason for it. Mostly, if I had to assume, it's the mobility. The mobility of the BT-7 is its strongest suit. And yes, the armor is a little thin, but that's kind of the trade-off, right? Armor thin, tank go fast. Like, yeah, don't worry about those little explosive packs or any of that horse. Just move. That's all you have to do. The BT-7 is the fastest machine in Moscow, hands down. And sure, you know, that little 7.62 DT machine gun isn't the best, but I mean, it still works. You can still take out infantry, and besides that, load up the high explosive. Trust me, infantry love high explosive, and the 45mm is just big enough to get a few multi-kills. I mean, I might be able to demonstrate that for you a little bit. Don't forget about the machine guns. Machine guns still will do work on infantry. You just have to be a little more mindful about your ammo reserves. You don't just have a million rounds. Moving on. Let's first talk about the strengths of the machine. And the biggest strength, or rather the most powerful aspect of the BT-7, is that it is the fastest tank in its campaign. It is. By a large margin. You can outrun anything. You can get into the action immediately. You just want to shoot people? Get in the BT-7, because you'll find some of in the BT-7. Trust me, if they're not where you're at, you just hit the W key, go vroom vroom, just be a little race car, and you'll find somebody to shoot at. Trust me. Okay, so the reverse speed is also another useful characteristic. Why? Because if you peek around a corner and take a shot, yeah, your gun has to reload. That's how that works. So it is a good idea to back up into cover in between shots, for sure. Absolutely use cover, because the armor, again, is not very thick, and you can angle it and you can deflect most munitions, for sure, but there's always someone else taking a shot at you, so always be aware of your surroundings, check your map, and make sure that your teammates are covering your flanks, or you will die in this machine. Okay, especially those explosive packs. You know, you see that little grenade indicator, you know, right at the base of your tank. Just back up or drive forward, get away from it. Don't wait. Don't just say, oh no, an explosive pack. You can use your mobility in place of your armor. Trust me. This thing's fast for a reason. It does deflect most anti-tank rifles, so long as you're angled and you don't show them that weak spot in the front. This little driver's port here. The angle on it isn't so good. If somebody's sitting right in front of you with an AT rifle and you don't angle, yup, they're gonna go through that thing, kill your driver, and then without a driver, what are you going to lose? Your mobility. That is the strongest suit of this vehicle by far. Okay, in comparison to the T-26, what you unlocked previously, as we all know, the T-26 is slow, and nobody knows why it's slow, right? Nobody understands how such a light tank such as the T-26 could be slow, but we're not talking about T-26, we're talking about this beautiful machine that we unlocked after. Absolutely. We'll just forget all about that T-26. Let's just keep moving on. BT-7 can escape from anti-tank squads. Yeah, see the guys we were just talking about with those little cute little anti-tank rifles? They don't walk very fast with those anti-tank rifles. It's almost like you can just drive away, maybe even run them over. You know, running them over is probably a good strategy too, but I've never tried it. So the best way to use your mobility in the early game would be to get your tank, your bt-7, into a firing position. And because you have the extra mobility over any other tank of the battlefield, you get to choose your starting position. So this is where map awareness, exploration, go ahead, just drive. It's fast. You just drive it around, look for a good spot, and you'll know when you find a good spot too, because you'll start killing a bunch of Germans. Trust me. Always use cover to try and hide your weak hole. Your turret can take far more punishment. If you just hide your soft body and just poke your head out, you'll do fine, because the turret is where the armor is. You're meant to hide the hole. This is how this works. Okay, but the next strength that we'll go over is what you're already used to from the T-26, although on a different platform. Thank the Lord! Which is the 45mm 20K cannon. And oh my goodness, in the campaign that it serves in, holy hell, my goodness. If you're a German man coming over and you experience a 45 from the gunner's perspective, you'll understand why people love the bt-7. It is an amazing vehicle. The high explosive especially, again, your machine gun is limited in the ammunition that you can expend, correct? Especially in comparison to your enemy. So what you should rely on is that 45mm high explosive, yeah? You just aim at their feet, right in the middle of the squad, and just let that explosive do its work. And don't forget about your MGs though. Yeah, you don't have a lot of ammunition, but all that means is go for the headshots. Don't worry about just drilling them and getting the DAC out there. You have 63 rounds, correct? Go for headshots. Tap fire. Make the ammunition that you have work, just in place of your high explosive doing most of the anti-infantry work. This is the key difference. There's a reason why the Germans decided to put multiple machine guns with larger capacities for ammunition, because they realized that their main armament on their tanks, the 37mm high explosive, was not very effective at taking out infantry. It wasn't. And it isn't in this game, and nor it should be. Or nor should it be. Another effective tactic is ambushing. Now you see, we talked about the mobility, we talked about getting into positions. It's not just early game. Positioning is the bt-7. Positioning is what makes this thing a monster in the eyes of your enemy. If you sit in the same place, you will die. If you keep moving, maybe stop for just a little bit, just take a few shots. Work the Germans over with the MGs just a little bit, and then you just keep moving. Shoot and scoot, shoot and scoot. As far as ambushing goes, yeah, bushes and trees, they work to hide tanks too, guys. You can hide in those things. Get into your commander view, pop your head up out of the cupola, and just take a nice little gander around what's going on around you. Just take a nice little peek around, and as soon as you find the enemies, you just tell that silly commander to get his ass back in the tank and switch back to your gunners. What does your gunner do? Let me show you exactly what the gunner does. Okay. Another effective, speaking on ambushing, the whole purpose of ambushing and utilizing your mobility to ambush is to get to the sides of enemy tanks, yeah? The whole purpose of flanking is so that you can get to their weak side armor. And you can use that 45mm to detonate ammo racks. But you don't always have to flank. Most German vehicles with that 45mm gun, you will be able to penetrate frontally. The entire purpose of flanking is to surprise your enemy. Because if you get on their side and they aren't aware that you are there, it is more likely than not that their infantry will be supporting that vehicle, so you not only get to kill the tank, but you get to kill all of his buddies as well. Flanking for the win. The bt-7 is a tank to die for in Moscow. She is one of the best machines. And again, it's like the Stuart, right? You know, most people load up Normandy for allies and they play around with the Stuart a little bit and they think, what is this? But they don't realize that most Allied Normandy players, or at least a lot of Normandy Allied tankers, the really good ones, prefer the Stuart. Why? Because it is an effective, mobile machine. The mobility is what makes the Stuart an amazing machine. The mobility is what makes the bt-7 an excellent machine. And yes, this is a different campaign. This is earlier on the time period, but for the time period, for the campaign, for the year that this game is, or this campaign is set in, the bt-7 shines. Why? Because she is so much faster, and the armor is good enough for a good player to utilize. That once you get used to it, it's like the Stuart. Most U.S. tankers will go back to the Stuart at some point, just because the mobility in the scouting role is where the sauce is. That little gun isn't such a big deal, and that's the thing about the bt-7. It has a bigger gun than the Stuart. It's maybe even more mobile than the Stuart. I don't know. I need to test that, but that's where it is. It's basically a scout vehicle with a big freaking cannon for the time period. My goodness, what an awesome machine. Just go ahead and leave that T-26 in the garage. You'll never pick that thing up again. Trust me. T-26, you just might as well forget about that son of a